Well, I started out pursuing a degree in physics, and while I was pursuing my degree, I became a tutor at Student Support Services at Weber State, and I worked there for 4 years and fell in love with teaching. I realized that that's what I wanted to do full time, and I've been working here ever since. Decided to switch from pursuing a degree in physics to teaching full time, and so I've been tutoring / teaching for a little over 10 years now.
So I actually was an applied mathematics major in college and a biology minor, and so I just always gravitated towards math. I liked that it was so puzzle oriented and it was black and white.
So my degree is actually in engineering. It's not actually in teaching. But I did spend a lot of time tutoring athletes on Utah State, go Aggies, where I was a tutor and a mentor. But right now I'm actually working on a master's in educational technology. So I am teaching here while learning how to teach.
Interestingly enough, I was certified as a master tutor at Weber State, and my final year working there, one of the students that I tutored said, "Hey, there's this company called AcerPlacer. I think you'd be a fantastic teacher there." And I said, "Okay," because I had planned on pursuing graduate school, and I got accepted to Ohio State University on a PhD track in astrophysics. And so I accepted this job as a way to pay for the move there. And I worked here one semester, and I said, you know what, I want to work here full time, and I've been here it'll be 5 years in May now.
It's been interesting to see the changes in Acer, because I know the history. I wasn't here since the beginning, but I've been here a really long time, and it used to be so different. But to watch the evolution and be part of that is really very cool.
I've been here for 2 years, so we were looking to, graduation was coming up, we were looking for teaching jobs. And she found a spot down here in Ogden, and she had a job lined up already, and so we came down, interviewed, and all worked out.
When I was certified at Student Support Services, I worked with a lot of developmental students, working with students with severe disabilities, challenges, and so I approach teaching from that standpoint. I teach from a very developmental point of view. Not saying my students are, but I tend to find that students tend to respond better and retain more when you teach at that level, right? So you explain things in a way that anybody can understand. A lot of times when teachers, in a traditional math class setting, they tend to teach down to students, trying to prove how smart they are. And I think that's the wrong approach, just letting them know that we are all on the same page and we all learn differently. And so being able to present things in a way that's easy to comprehend, easy to understand, and easy to retain, in my opinion, is probably the best way in ensuring students can keep the information that we give to them.
Everybody kind of teases me a little bit because I'm very, very enthusiastic, to a fault maybe, but it makes them learn really well. I hear way too often that maybe I would have learned math, but my teacher was so boring, or they were just monotone, or they just talked at me. It wasn't involved, you know what I mean? And so our classrooms are different. We have this set up boardroom style so that students can work together, so I can go around and work with them. And I get very excited, I'm very animated, and people will tease me about that, but in a good way. I want them to get excited and be like, why wasn't I ever taught that way? Why am I just now learning this? I would have succeeded sooner.
My teaching style, I do my best to try to help students learn how to learn it themselves. There are kind of two ways to approach these problems. You can either use a lot of fun stories, and that works out really well because it helps people remember it. And I do use fun stories, but I also try to help them learn sort of the math behind what they're doing so they can kind of understand what they're doing. So that way they use a fun story to remember, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, but they know why they're doing it. So it's not like a regular math class. You go, the teacher says something, you kind of just take it on faith because they said something, you have no idea why that is. I try to show my students why that is so they know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
One of the first things I explain to students on day one is I say, embrace the wrongness. I say, it's okay. I encourage wrong answers. One of the biggest challenges in the United States is the idea that if you're thinking the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, that the equivalence is that you're stupid. And I think that's a really backwards approach to math. Math is a language that's designed around failure. You're bound to fail. You're gonna stumble. You're gonna say the wrong thing. And so I tell students, say the wrong thing. Be proud of saying the wrong thing, because in Japan, for instance, when you say the wrong thing, they don't see it as a failure, they see it as a stepping stone to success. And so I take that approach with my students. So when somebody says the wrong thing, I go, great, why did you say that? And we discover why, and we go, great, now you've learned from that. Instead of saying, usually in a math class, a teacher will say, you're wrong, who else wants to say it? And then the person feels left out. Or if somebody says, what's 1 + 1? And everybody except that one person raises their hand, they're gonna go, well, I must be stupid because I don't understand it. It's just they haven't been exposed to it yet. And so that's the main approach I take, is just helping students be okay with being wrong.
I don't want them to hate math. I want them to know that it doesn't have to be so boring and so much drudgery. They need to know that it can be fun and it can be involved and it can be taught in a fun way, and that's what we do. I really try to get the students to bond with each other as well. They text me, they start texting each other. I encourage them to come to lab after class, and they start staying in little groups, their little class groups, and they work together and they teach each other. And so I try to make sure it's not just a student, but more like a little family unit for a few months or a few weeks while they test out. And at the end of the semester, it's awesome because they'll be like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? Did they test out? They've been working so hard. Oh, I'm so happy for them. And they just get so excited with those types of things. And then when they see that they've tested out on our, on our Facebook page or anything like that, then they can be excited and be like, oh my gosh, I worked with them. They can test out. Well, I can do it.
Honestly, it's different classroom to classroom. So some classrooms just are more quiet by nature. They prefer to go in there and get the job done, and that's what they want to do, and that's awesome. I have other classrooms that are a lot more active and a lot more talkative. And we joke and we laugh and it's a good time. But I try to cater the class to what it seems the class wants to do. So the more quieter classes, I try not to pester them as much. I do, jokes come out, you can't stop them, can't stop the magic there. But the ones that tend to be a little bit louder, it's the opposite issue. I try to dampen it down a little bit and make sure that we can stay busy.
One of the biggest things that I tell my students on the first day is I'm one of the most accessible teachers they'll ever meet. So, inside the classroom, obviously they can ask questions, they can pause at any time, and they can say, I need help with this, I need help with that, and I can work with that. Outside of the classroom, I offer my text, I offer my email. I tell my students, I'd rather help you out than to make you feel like you're drowning in the middle of a homework question. So I give them my number, I say, text me anytime. They'll take a picture of the problem that they're working on, and I'll work them through that, through text, either that or I'll give them a call and I say, here's what you need to do. So anytime, day or night, I say open invitation. A lot of students take advantage of it, and I think it makes them feel like that they are being attended to, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom as well.
I'm so vested in them. It's not just like, oh, the semester's over, like, peace out. It's nothing like that. We become really good friends, and some of them have become really, really good friends of mine to this day after the course is over. One of my best friends in the world, she came through this course, and now she is one of the most important people in my life.
I'd say it's a lot more familiar than a usual teacher, and I don't think that's because teachers in regular college classes, hate people or hate students. I think it's because there's 200 of them, and so they don't have a chance to get to know anybody or to really connect to people one-on-one. I have classes with 5 people in them, so I know their names, I know each of them individually, I know what they're struggling with. I personally look at each of their homework assignments and try to help them based on what they're doing on those homework assignments. I can give direct feedback to everybody, and so I get to get a stronger connection, more of a friendship with each student, whereas in a more traditional class, there'd be you're just one person in a crowd and you kind of get lost. So
I had one particular student, this was over the summer, and he came in not being able to do 1 - 2, stuff like that. Like basic arithmetic was an extreme challenge for him. And so after the semester was over, he went through a 7-week course, and we had an additional 7 weeks, and he lived in lab basically. He was there 8 hours a day. And I worked with him. I taught him developmental multiplication techniques, developmental division techniques, helped him work on fractions, decimals. Spent a good month and a half working on it. Didn't think he could succeed, but he kept saying, this is my week, I'm gonna do it. Finally, the day came. It was a week before his mission, and he went and took the test, got there at 9 a.m., took him 9 hours to take the test, and tested out with a 73. And he came in crying, and everyone around him knew him because he lived in the lab the entire time. So he walked up to everyone. He's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because he came, thinking about the background that he came from, he went from struggling with sines and multiplication to being able to pass advanced trigonometry. And to me, that by far was my best success story that I've seen.
I had this one lady in her 60s, and she told me she took one of the campus courses 4 times. She took it 4 times, failed it 4 times, paid for it 4 times, and was ready to drop out of school. And unfortunately, I think that happens to some people just because of math. And college shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't drop out of school just because of math. It should never be that way. Math shouldn't be a hindrance. It should be something that's interesting that you can learn. And so she worked so hard, and literally, I think she is in her 60s, I found out later, and she was the sweetest person. She had to work harder than the high schoolers that were in class, but guess what? She tested out. And I saw her later on, and she was with her husband, and she just started to cry. She's like, this is my husband. I told him you're my angel. Like, you're my angel. You saved me. And she graduated with honors from her class.
I think my favorite student success story is the one who started scoring in the 30s in that last test section, ended up scoring a perfect score and becoming a teacher here. Cha-ching.
The reason why I enjoy teaching so much is because I know all the different ways that math is traditionally taught, and I know how poorly it's taught, and that's why math gets a bad rep, right? Students go through a bad teacher or a bad experience, and then they pass that information along to other people. They say, math is horrible, so on and so forth, right? So I feel like not only am I doing the right part helping students understand the math, but I'm helping students understand that math can be really easy if it's presented with the right perspective, right? So that kind of ties in with AcerPlacer, because AcerPlacer, as opposed to a standard math program, we have the freedom to be able to teach things with silly stories and analogies and using ideas that help weave a tapestry, right? So it's like a tapestry of math. So these students can kind of connect dots visually, as opposed to trying to memorize a theorem, memorize a proof. What does this mean? Why is it connected to that? So we use a story and we say, hey, remember this story from 2 weeks ago? This is why this is. And then it clicks for them. And so it kind of ties hand in hand. AcerPlacer gives me the freedom to be able to teach that way, and I get to help students see things in a way that isn't traditionally done in a standard math program.
Teaching overall, my favorite moments are the light bulb moments, when you can see on their face like, why wasn't I taught that way? That is so cool. Literally, when people test out, it's almost a party. We come out of the classrooms, we celebrate, we take pictures, they're crying, they're hugging, and it is so much fun. That's what we live for. It's not just here's a grade, move on. We don't give grades. We grade their homework just to see if they understand, and that's what I love about it. I get to see if they understand, and then I don't touch their GPA. Their success is their testing out. Their success is bringing in that test score and taking a picture with us because they've just accomplished something so huge.
If I can make someone's math experience better, that I can make a difference for them. That is why teaching at AcerPlacer is just so fantastic, because it allows me to make that difference on a personal level instead of just hoping for the best in front of a big classroom.
Every semester we meet together and we discuss new ideas, because what will happen is a student will ask a question, and we'll go, that's interesting, let's explore that. And then from that conversation, a new method will, prevail, or a new method will come out. So we present those ideas in front of all the other instructors. We say, hey, here's a new idea we have, let's explore this. And then we test the waters and we beta test it and we see if it'll work. And if it works, then we incorporate it into the program. We do give our teachers a little bit of freedom. So, there's certain lessons where we have to strictly teach it this way, because we found in our experience that by far that's the one that offers the highest amount of retention. But there are other lessons where we offer our instructors a little bit of freedom, and that's where we say, okay, hey, if you want to present it this way or that way, that's totally fine. But again, generally we all get a say, we all get to introduce ideas that we have, and then we incorporate it into the main program. So I think AcerPlacer is fantastic. I think we have a fantastic program with a wonderful staff. Absolutely love working here. The students love us, we love them, and we invite everyone to our doors. I think it's just a great place to work and a great place to learn math.
The fact that we can offer a pass or don't pay guarantee, that is unlike anywhere else. We're so confident that students can test out that if they do what we ask of them, they'll absolutely test out, and I have hundreds of stories to prove that. But without fail, every student who's ever come through my course says, it is worth it, you will not regret it, and all you have to do is look at our hundreds of test scores who have, they have notes on the back when they test out, and they say, this was my secret, thanks AcerPlacer, couldn't have done it without you. All you have to do is look at those and you can know that it's 100% worth it. Sometimes something sounds too good to be true, doesn't mean that it is.
And I get to watch their progress personally throughout their entire journey as they test out. And that is a fantastic experience. And it is one that I don't think you could get anyplace else. So AcerPlacer is the best. It is thebomb.com, and I am very proud to work here.
Everybody here becomes like family, and it's just really, really conducive to not only math learning, but enjoying math at the same time. I think that's what sets AcerPlacer apart from other math programs.
We're gonna make it fun, we're gonna make it interesting, you're gonna work really hard, and you're gonna feel proud, but we're not gonna make it harder because why? Why would you need to make it harder than necessary? Why not make it fun? Why not make it something you can relate to? And so that's why AcerPlacer is different.